Hello guys, Dylan here, and today we are doing a new series. That series being a spiritual successor to Chris Chan's Captain's Log videos. And as you can see, I have my little character on the screen right here. Hopefully he isn't too distracting. I know quite a few people on this channel didn't really like him the last time I tried to use him. Hopefully this is a more creative use of him. As you can tell, this is Chris Chan's old room. Someone on Twitter gave me this background, and I was happy to do some type of series with it. And that's pretty much all the fun we get to have today. Maybe later this week we'll have a more fun discussion, but today I'm going to be having a very serious talk because Gibby is at it again. So for those of you guys who've been paying attention to my videos, recently I covered a girl named Isabella. Well, it turns out that Isabella has some connections with Gibby, and Isabella was giving Gibby information, and Gibby was covering this information. One of the things that Gibby did was he helped dox Isabella's friend, quote unquote. I don't know who'd want to be friends with this crazy bitch, but he helped dox Isabella's autistic friend. And there's a reason why I didn't even bring up the autistic friend's name yesterday. It's because I don't want to talk about her. The girl was manipulated to be in this situation to begin with. She has nothing to do with this. The minimum amount of times that I will mention her name is as much as I want to. She doesn't deserve to be doxxed. She doesn't deserve to be harassed. And now, thanks to Isabella, this girl is in a asylum. She's in a mental health establishment because she is having so much difficulties dealing with all the hatred she's getting. People are blowing up her phone. People are blowing up her social media. People are harassing her. And Gibby contributed to this. Gibby contributed to people harassing her because he made her phone number even more public on his now 50,000 sub channel. And this goes all the way back to what I called Gibby out on last year. Last year, if you followed my channel, Gibby got mixed up in MKR Night V. MKR Night V is a Chris Chan troll. Regardless what you want to say, they are a troll. They have admitted that they don't believe in the dimensional merge. They only pretended to believe in it to get close to Chris, and even backstabbed Chris when it was convenient to them. They are a white knight, a ween, a troll, whatever you want to call them. They manipulated Chris for a long time to get close to him and to slight Jacob Sockness. And Gibby still has issues with Jacob Sockness. Basically, these people were building up their own little clique, and they were getting other Chris Chan YouTubers involved. A couple of the Chris Chan YouTubers who were involved with Smokey Chris, if any of you guys remember him, and Gibby. They tried to get me involved, and I told them no. And then I helped a few other people expose them for the things that they were doing. And eventually their whole little Discord server fell apart. They made another one, so it doesn't really matter. But it put a lot of heat on them, so they weren't able to do their shady business as covertly as they wanted to. Well, Gibby is now helping yet again another troll. This time, Isabel. And he has been spreading some of the shit that she has been telling him to spread. And this is dangerous. This is dangerous shit because Gibby should really know better at this point. Like, I don't know what he does. I don't know why he is so quick to cover a story. I don't know why he can't just wait. I don't know why he has to be the first one to cover any Chris Chan story. He needs to sit back, do his research, and see where things are going before immediately covering this shit. And one of the big issues that I've had with him before, and I mentioned this in my last video I did on him, is that he spreads conspiracy theories. When you're doing news update videos, that is not the time to start sharing your conspiracy talk. That can spread misinformation and get a lot of people in trouble and hurt a lot of people and muddy the waters for everything that's going on. If you read the Kiwi Farms thread on Isabel, one of the things that they bring up is that people like Gibby make it really hard for them to do their research to actually bust this girl because they don't know what's true. Everything's being muddied because it's being spread through social media. And Gibby is a part of that. Gibby is a part of the people who is spreading this shit. And another thing that Gibby did recently that I haven't liked is he's been publishing every single audio leak. He's been publishing them all. Even though they're distorted, even though they're manipulated, Gibby's been putting them up on his channel, basically doing the trolls' bidding, helping out the trolls, helping get the trolls famous, which is what they always want to begin with. So talking to them and helping them out is not a good thing. Another thing that he did that was really fucked, and I don't agree with this at all. Now, I think we can all say that what happened to Barb is fucked. She's old. She can't consent. Even if you think Barb was a terrible person, you shouldn't want this type of shit to happen to her. And even if you are the most degenerate person around, I think if you watch Chris Chan's videos, you will see that Barb is out of it. She can't consent to anything. So when you think of this old lady who can't consent being taken advantage of by her son, it's not really comedic. Like, I've made fun of Chris for a lot of things, but I haven't made fun of Chris for this. And the reason why is because this is fucked. I've even been calling the authorities involved to try to give them information because I'm taking this as seriously as I can. Meanwhile, Gibby is posting thumbnails insinuating Chris having sex with his mom, and he knows that it was wrong because he removed the thumbnail. It's not up anymore. So he obviously realized what he did was wrong. He knows what the fuck he's doing. He knows that it can get him in trouble, but he does it anyway. He was even on Twitter saying that he had to delete his video because it showed one of the people involved's phone number, and that it was his fault for it happening. That type of stuff shouldn't happen. When you get presented with evidence, you should look it over. You should come to your own conclusions. You shouldn't just immediately publish it. This is how people get hurt, when you just immediately throw stuff out there. Another thing that he admitted to is that the audio that Bella gave him was probably tampered with. It sucks that it was up for days, and a lot of people were potentially misled because it took you that long to realize that. And I think the reason why Gibby fell for this is not because he's a troll. I don't think Gibby's a troll. I think that Gibby doesn't do his research. I think that Gibby will just believe shit that people tell him because he's gullible. And he's willing to work with these people because they're directly involved. And he doesn't think that they're going to manipulate him, or he thinks that he is above manipulation. This is the most positive take that I can have. I'm just really mad about the whole Gibby stuff in general, because Gibby is now a person with a massive platform. He is someone who a lot of people are looking to for reliable Chris Chan information. And not only is he not providing reliable Chris Chan information, he is also helping the people who are hurting Chris Chan. So I advise you to think twice before supporting Gibby, because this isn't a new thing. I'll have videos linked in the description. I'll make a whole playlist dedicated to it. This is not a new thing. He has tried to troll Chris before when he wanted to get Chris on Dr. Phil. He helped out other Chris Chan trolls before. He works with these people behind the scenes, and he's been called out on it and told to reform before, and chose not to. I hope that Gibby watches this video and doesn't write it off like he did my last video. And despite this video being a structural mess, I hope you guys found some type of entertainment from it. I hope you guys are informed about this. Hey guys, Dylan here, and today we're doing yet again another Captain's Log video. Now, in case you guys missed the point of the Captain's Log videos on the last video that I did on Gibby, the Captain's Log videos are just meant to be a little vlog type series where I talk about Chris Chan related subjects without having to meet the standards of my other series. Usually when I talk about Chris Chan, I'm either watching a video of his, or I'm reading an article about him, or I was reading tweets about him. I had multiple different formats that I used to use to talk about Chris, and I just wanted to try out something new, which is why I'm in random settings of Chris's room. I have this yellow filter over the video. It's to fit the aesthetic and the theme of the series. And I'm not going to be showing anything on the screen because it is meant to be a vlog. You wouldn't see that in old vlogs of the 2000s. You wouldn't see that in old vlogs that Chris Chan did, so you won't really see that here. Now, I know that my character had some issues yesterday with his emotions and his head tweaking. That's because I had my Discord open and it was being a bit buggy. Hopefully today the character looks a little bit more animated, a little bit more lively. I'm going to be trying to get him working a little bit better. I do admit that it was a little wonky yesterday. But enough talking about me, and let's get on to the subject of today's video. That being a discussion about Chris Chan going to court. Now, for those of you guys who didn't know, the fallout of the whole incest stuff that happened over a week ago, Chris Chan went to a hotel or a motel, and he ended up renting a place there because he couldn't stand being in his car for a night while Noel gave him $1,000. So Chris Chan decided to instead steal $700 from his mom and get a shitty motel. And while he was there, Ethan Ralph of the kill stream decided to try to harass him and get him to turn against Josh. Wouldn't happen to begin with. It was a dumb idea, but whatever. Ethan Ralph is a dumb man. And Chris ended up getting arrested. Now, he didn't get arrested for stealing Barb's money, but stealing Barb's money may have broke the protective order, which made the police investigate to begin with. So right now that's kind of up in the air, but that has not been publicly been made the reason why he got arrested. Publicly, the reason why he got arrested is for incest. So I just assumed that this was already going through, and now it's finalized. We don't have any reports on Barb's rape kit or whatever they used to test her, whatever they were doing in the hospital. We have no news on any of that. So that's kind of up in the air. Now, since all of that is out of the way, the shit show, the summary, let me tell you what I think is probably going to happen with the court case. Now, I think in the worst case scenario, Chris Chan will be sent to a male prison. I don't think Chris Chan is going to be sent to a female prison. They've already made that obvious by saying that he would be going to a male prison. Now, I know they're respecting Chris Chan's gender, and they acknowledge that he is a female. But the reason why that they will be sending him to a male prison if he ends up going to prison or jail is because he is someone who is being charged for sexual related crimes, and he has a penis. He sexually assaulted a woman. They don't want to take the chances of him sexually assaulting more women. So it would be smart to send him to a male prison. Now, they didn't say that was the reasoning, and I can't prove that's the reasoning, but chances are that's the reasoning. You wouldn't want to send a sexual offender to prison full of women when they have a dick and will sexually assault women. Now, do I think Chris Chan would actually sexually assault anyone? I don't fucking know at this point. I used to say no, but at this point, anything could happen. Now, despite a lot of people thinking that jail is going to happen, I think there's actually a second option that is more likely to happen than jail. I think that, judging by the lawyer that Chris Chan got, which, by the way, he got a really good lawyer. I don't know how he was able to get a good lawyer, but Chris Chan has a good lawyer. Maybe it's for the attention of the case. I don't know. But Chris Chan has a pretty good lawyer. And I think the lawyer is going to play up Chris Chan's craziness. He's going to bring up the dimensional merge stuff. He's going to bring up the harassment that Chris Chan has suffered throughout the years. He's going to bring up the fact that Chris Chan was labeled as an adult child multiple times. And he's going to try to get Chris Chan sent to a mental institution. I think that this is the better option, if you ask me, between going to jail or going to an institution. I'd rather Chris Chan be in an institution. And the reality of things is that regardless of how things turned out, if Chris did mess with his mom or not, when his mom died, he was going to be homeless. So I'd rather him go to a institution where they will take care of him. They will be sure that he's taking his meds. They'll be sure that he's all right, than for him to end up homeless in a few years anyway. I think that this is probably the best outcome we could get. A lot of people have been saying that Christian needed help for years, mainly because of the whole dimensional merge shit. And I think that this is probably the only way that Christian will get help is if they force him to get help. So, yeah, I do think that that is highly likely. But yet again, to humor the whole him going to jail option, that might happen too, because Christian is a multiple offender. Christian has been in court multiple times for multiple different crimes. Once for hitting Michael Snyder with his car, and then once for macing a GameStop employee. So Christian has had run-ins with the law before. Virginia has laws in place about multiple time offenders, so he might not get any mercy because of him having a history of doing stupid shit. But then again, he's also autistic, so him being mentally disabled might get him some pity points from the court. So I don't know really which way this is gonna go. If you asked me my honest opinion and said which one do I think is more likely to happen, I think it would be that Christian gets sent to a mental institution. And really, I don't see anything wrong with that. The man is obviously having issues. Apparently, he thinks it's okay to fuck his mother. So there are some serious problems that they need to work out with him. I'm curious what you guys think, though, and I'm curious what you guys thought of this video. This is more of a discussion type series. I wasn't really going to make this an expose series. I wasn't really going to make this a big drama series. I just wanted a way for me to have a conversation with you guys without it having to be heavily formatted and without it having to have like strict limitations to it. Because normally when I do videos like this, they're in the guise of me reading a tweet, me reading an article, or me watching a video. I would like to have a series where I just talk to you guys. Hopefully my character was a bit better animated today. I really messed around with the settings to try to get him to look more lively, get him to have a bit more expression to him. I know that he looks a bit dull, but I want that. I want him to look dull because I don't want exaggerated expressions, because I'm not a very expressive person in real life. So I wouldn't want to pretend like I am when I'm using this character. Hey guys, Dylan here, and today we are doing yet again another Captain's Log video. For those of you guys who are curious, the Captain's Log videos are just little, they're just little vlogs that I'm doing. It's mainly just random Christian subjects I really wanted to talk about, and I didn't really want to fit them to my other series. I didn't want it to be a Sonic Insanity. I didn't want it to be a quickie discussion. I just wanted to be able to talk about the Christian stuff with you guys and not have to format it. So hopefully you guys are enjoying this series, and hopefully you guys will continue to support this series. It won't last forever, and when it's done, it's done. So today we're going to be talking about, is Christian innocent? For those of you guys who need to be caught up, Christian was exposed for potentially having sex with his mother. And unlike the other times where people tried to expose him for this or tried to insinuate that he did it, this time there's a whole lot of evidence. Christian was talking to Noel, the owner of Kiwi Farms, and described the woman that he was with, and the description fit Barbara perfectly, and he said, you can figure out who it is, and if anyone else did, I would be in a lot of trouble, hinting that he knew what he was doing was wrong, and he was doing it anyway. He also told me and another person directly that he did do it. He was also hinting numerous times that he did it. And he was even in a multi-hour call with a troll that he did do it. He said it numerous times in the call and described exactly how he did it. Now, it's thanks to the person who recorded that call that people are now doubting if Christian is innocent or guilty. And I'd like to say right now, for you guys, I would recommend you look at all the evidence and come to your own conclusion if you think Christian is guilty or not. But legally speaking, Christian is not guilty until he is convicted by a court, or he is sentenced by a court. So I would really wait to see what goes on. If you don't mind making up your mind now, then go ahead. But for anyone else who's weary, I say just wait for the case to go through. It won't be that much longer. It won't be that much longer before he's actually sentenced. Now, the reason why I bring this up and the reason why we have to have this discussion at all is because Isabel is the person who was interviewing Chris Chan, and she has been revealed to be a psychotic troll who boils hamsters alive. She is a literal monster, and it's because of this that people are comparing her to both Blue Spike and the Idea Guys. She takes these labels and she wears them honorably. She is glad to be compared to these people and always wanted to be like them. So a lot of people are wondering, did she organize this event? Is this Chris Chan being tricked into having sex with his mother? And is Chris Chan innocent because he was tricked into doing it? We have no proof that Chris Chan was 100% tricked into having sex with his mother. Chris Chan has been tricked into doing a lot of things like fucking his PlayStation and God knows how many more depraved acts. So it's not out of the question that Chris Chan could be tricked into having sex with his mother. But considering how gleeful he was to talk about it, and considering just how much he hinted that he did it, I don't think that he was tricked into it. And if he was, it was more like coerced into it. For those of you guys who are wondering, Isabel wanted to get Chris Chan to admit to doing this so she could record it and use it to blackmail him. And at the end of the road, she wanted Chris Chan to end his own life. So that has led a lot of people to believe that she convinced Chris to do it to begin with. Right now, there is no proof that she convinced Chris to do it altogether. If that proof does come out, then I will update this video and possibly remove this video because it will then be outdated. But with the information that we have right now, Isabel was gleeful to hear about Chris Chan having sex with his mom, and did encourage Chris Chan to continue to have sex with his mom. And I think the main reason why she was encouraging it is because she wanted to blackmail him. This is fucked up on so many levels, and Isabel is a gross freak, and I'm glad that she's getting exactly what she deserves on Kiwi Farms right now. So, a lot of people have been commenting on my video saying that Chris Chan is innocent now. That because he might have been tricked into it, that absolves him from doing it. And I say, no, Chris Chan is not innocent. In my opinion, because Chris Chan was so happy about it, because Chris Chan bragged about it, because Chris Chan was willing to leave those little clues for people to figure out that he fucked his mom, he obviously enjoyed it. He obviously wanted to continue to do it. And I'm not going to take away his agency. This is something that he wanted to do. Chris Chan has hinted for a long time that he wanted to fuck his mother. People have made this insinuation for years because of the things that he says. This is 100% something that Chris Chan would do, and it seems like something that Chris Chan enjoyed doing. I think that Chris Chan should be held accountable for his own actions, and even if he was talked into it by a troll, it's still his decision at the end of the day to do it. Chris Chan is not full retarded. He is high-functioning autistic. Chris Chan still knows right from wrong. He just has a child's view of what is right and wrong. And I think it's safe to say that he should know that this is wrong. The fact that he tried to cover it up, the fact that he tried to keep it secret, the fact that he knew it was going to blow up in his face, are all indications that he knew that what he was doing is wrong and that he was trying to hide it. And I really think that for anybody who's on the fence, I don't think it's safe to say that Chris Chan is innocent. If you want to, you can say that you are undecided and you're going to wait for the court to decide if Chris Chan is innocent or not. That's a fair choice to make. That's a fair, reasonable mindset to have. But for me personally, because Chris Chan admitted it to me himself, and because Chris Chan bragged about it, because there's so much evidence, because we have hours of him talking about how he did it and how he was going to continue to do it. He was buying books to help him better have sex with disabled people, which that would be his mom because she is disabled. The fact that he was calling her Barbie, there's so many things that prove that Chris Chan did this. So in my honest opinion, I would say yes, he did it. I know that this is a dangerous thing to do. It's not responsible to say someone did something when they haven't been convicted of it yet. And if Chris Chan is innocent, he can take me to court. I know he won't do that, and I know this isn't gonna happen. That's a joke, poorly worded joke. But hopefully you guys got your answer from that. I think I hit all bases on that. If I missed anything, then I'm sorry. This is mostly just a video to open up the question of, do I think that Chris Chan is innocent? And in this regard, I would say no. I defended Chris Chan before when people called him a pedophile. I defended Chris Chan before when people called him a sexual offender. I have defended Chris Chan before when people have made fake evidence to try to expose him on many things and get him banned from many things. This is not one of those cases. I think that there is enough evidence to say that Chris Chan did this, and I wouldn't be caught dead defending him. Hey guys, Dylan here, and today we are doing yet again another Captain's Log. Now, I'm telling you guys ahead of time, this one is going to be a very controversial subject. I know that a lot of people don't want to have these types of conversations at all, period, but it is something that's being brought up a lot, especially in regards to Chris Chan. So, we have to have this discussion. So if you guys don't like talking about gender, and you want to hold the notion of if you identify as a gender, then that is what you are, then just hold on to that belief and you can exit off of this video, because today we're being open-minded and we are discussing Chris Chan and if Chris Chan should have their gender respected, if we should respect what Chris Chan chooses to identify as. Now, and the reason why we're having this conversation is because this is being brought up in the media a lot. A lot of people are saying you shouldn't misgender Chris. A lot of people are saying that the court is being sexist by saying that Chris Chan should go to a male prison. A lot of people are starting to discuss if it's okay to misgender Chris, because some people are even saying that, yes, Chris Chan fucked his mom, but that's no reason to misgender him. And as someone who's actually talked to Chris Chan for a while, I think that this is something that I am at least somewhat knowledgeable of. Now, I've both talked to Chris personally and I've studied Chris for a long time now. And when it comes to gender, it's very complex with Chris. All the way back in Sonichu, you can see that Chris Chan was questioning his gender. Not only does he flat out say in one page that he would rather go through gender reassignment surgery than admit to being gay, but he also created Crystal, who is basically a clone of himself, which he has openly said is a clone of himself, and that she is female. So basically a way for him to project himself as being a woman. Now, if you just looked at that bit of evidence, that would be enough for you to think, yeah, Chris Chan's trans. The evidence is there. He's talked about it for a while. It's been hinted at for years. But there's actually a lot of reasons to doubt Chris Chan being trans. One of such is the fact that he said rather than admitting that he's gay, he would go through gender reassignment surgery so he can be a straight woman. Now, since he's been identifying as a woman, he hasn't really tried to get with any men. It was kind of hinted that he might have gotten a relationship with Sockness if people let him. But as far as I can tell, he didn't get in a relationship with any men, or at least any real men. But it was out there, so that's a reason to doubt his transition. Another reason to doubt his transition is the fact of why he believes that he is trans. Chris Chan is not someone who believes that he is trans, as in he accepts that he was born with a hormonal imbalance or he's one person stuck in a different body. Chris Chan thinks that he is the reincarnation of a spirit from the 1970s. And that spirit from the 1970s is him, and it was a female spirit. Now, Chris Chan is also someone who believed that he was the reincarnation of a Cherokee leader, and he believed that Cherokee leader was white. Chris Chan also believes that he is the reincarnation of a goddess and a Sonichu. Chris Chan believes that he is a lot of things, a lot of fictional things. Chris Chan also is one who took on the notion that he was Spanish in some sort, or Latino in some sort, just because he was learning how to speak Spanish, and wanted to change his name to have Ricardo in it, because he adopted that name when he was learning Spanish. Chris Chan is someone who's easily influenced, and he's someone who has a very loose grip on reality. When Chris Chan was first going through his transition, if you can say, Chris Chan was just a cross-dresser. And he started cross-dressing by wearing Barb's underwear. Then it turned into him wearing a bra. Then it turned into him wearing women's clothes altogether. And when he was wearing women's clothes, he would call himself a tomgirl. He didn't want to call himself a trans person. He knew what trans people were. He specifically chose to not identify as trans. He even accused other people of being trans before. So Chris Chan was very well aware of what trans people were and chose to not identify as it. He instead chose the label of tomgirl, or nicer put, cross-dresser, but whatever. Chris Chan just decided to not identify as being trans. And he thought that just dressing like a woman was enough. Eventually, later on, but only after talking to internet trolls, Chris Chan started to identify as being trans. Around the same time that Chris Chan started to identify as being trans, he also started saying that he was a goddess. And he also started saying that he was a Sonichu, like an actual Sonichu, like not that fictionally he's a Sonichu. And despite Chris Chan saying that he didn't have superpowers, he is now convinced that yes, he is Sonichu, like he is half Sonichu, and he thinks his father is half Sonichu. So at the same time that Chris Chan came out as being trans, he also came out with a bunch of other shit. But let's move on from that. Let's talk about what Chris Chan thinks being trans is. I already mentioned before that he thinks that he is a ghost from the 1970s, and because he is a ghost from the 1970s that was a woman, now he is trapped in a male's body and he needs to transition. So what's Chris Chan's idea of transitioning? Yes, he does hormone treatment. I don't know if it was always prescribed to him by a doctor or if he just bought it online because you can just do that for some reason. But Chris Chan also thinks that being trans means that you have to go through hypnosis treatment, and hypnosis treatment through YouTube videos. And he thinks that this hypnosis treatment would magically transform him into a woman, like a biological female. He wanted to have ovaries. He wanted to be able to conceive children. This is something that he actually thought was possible. And he wanted this type of thing to happen. He even put it in the comics happening to Robbie Sanchu. So this is something that Chris Chan actually believed in, and this is something that Chris Chan counts as part of his trans experience. While listening to these hypnotic tapes, Chris Chan decided to speed up the process by cutting a hole in his taint, because he thought that he was growing a vagina underneath it. Chris Chan does not understand what being trans is. Chris Chan does not understand what trans people go through. There is a good reason why a lot of people in the trans community disown Chris. And if you need any other reason to doubt Chris Chan's legitimacy as a trans person, Chris Chan has been on record saying that the main reason why he wants to be trans, and the main reason why he wants to be a lesbian in particular, is because he thinks that being trans and being lesbian will open up his field to get more women. And the reason why he wanted to keep his dick is because he wanted to be able to fuck said women. So he was only trying to transition and only trying to be more feminine so he could attract lesbians, because the way that he sees it is that if he's lesbian, he opens up a whole nother market of boyfriend-free girls, and he thinks that girls will want to have both a girlfriend and a boyfriend. That is Christian's logic. Christian thought that transitioning would allow him to get with lesbians. And he did try to go after lesbians when he was going through his transition. This did not work. This idea was stupid. But it's Christian coming up with it, so are you even shocked? Another thing I want to point out is, Christian is so far into his own delusions that it even transcends gender in general. Christian thought that cartoon characters were real, and that there was some way for the cartoon characters to come into our reality. This is what he calls the dimensional merge. He has tried to activate the merge for over 3 years now, and he constantly makes excuses to why it didn't happen. Christian thought that he swapped bodies with his fictional character Magi-chan, and then the next year, he thought that he swapped bodies with his fictional character Sonichu. For Sonichu, Christian pretended to be him for a year. He pretended to be him for months on end on social media, never breaking character. There is good reasons why people doubt that Christian is actually trans. Because if he can pretend to be Sonichu for a year to make people believe that Sonichu actually exists, what stops him from pretending to be a woman for God knows how many years to try to convince people that he is actually a lesbian, so then he can get a boyfriend-free girl? Another thing that Christian has tried to do is fake having mental issues before. Christian tried to pretend like he was going to have amnesia at one point. Christian pretended that he had multiple personalities at one point, and Christian tried to pretend that his past self was trying to take over his mental being. He tried this years ago, and then it failed, and he immediately gave up on the idea. Then after watching Geno Samuel's documentary where he brought it up again, Christian tried it again, where some dumb people on YouTube and Twitter actually humored him. As you can tell by now with this over 10-minute long video, Christian is someone who wants attention. Christian is someone who will fake having mental conditions. Christian is someone who actually believes in the crazy shit that he speaks. And if you need anything else to convince yourself that Christian is 100% delusional and that it doesn't matter, is that Christian thought that he could cure Barbara's aging mind, his old mother. He thought that he could heal her aging mind by giving her hypnotic tapes and making her listen to YouTube videos that would make her young again. He thought that by having sex with her, she would turn younger again, or at least be younger mentally. I don't even have to tell you how dumb of an idea that is. Christian is someone who isn't in touch with reality. When normally people transition, they understand what's going on. They understand that they are someone who was born in a body that they don't feel comfortable in, and they use medical treatment to make their body better fit what they want it to be. Christian is someone who believes that he can harness magical powers to magically turn himself into a biological female. Christian thinks that going through this transition will both prevent him from being gay and allow him to get with lesbians. There is good reason to doubt Christian's gender. There is good reason to not use Christian's pronouns. There is good reason to continue to call Christian a man. Christian has had years and plenty of funds to transition. If Christian wanted to, he could raise the money and people would support him to go through gender reassignment surgery. Christian does not want to lose his penis. Christian wants to keep his dick because he wants to continue fucking women. Christian is a man who cross-dresses and has been convinced that he is trans, both by trolls and by white knights. I choose to call Chris Chris, and I choose to call Chris a he. Maybe you guys have different opinions than me. I know that this is a very divisive topic. Hopefully, I didn't offend too many people out there. I know a lot of people don't like the talk of transgender issues. I know a lot of people didn't want to have this conversation at all. But it's getting brought up a lot, and I don't think it's an issue of transphobia, because I've seen a lot of people in the trans community disown Chris. A lot of people in the trans community are saying don't think Chris represents them, and they're trying to get rid of Chris. And I can't blame them. Every other community has gotten rid of Chris, so I'm not shocked. So I'm wondering what you guys think of this conversation. If you guys think that Christian is a woman, comment down below. I'd love to talk to you about it. And if you think he's a man, then comment that down below too, and I'd love to see what you guys think. I would hope that you guys will be respectful with each other in the comment section. This is the most risky conversation we've had to date, but it's something I feel like we really needed to talk about. I feel like most Christian people won't actually open this Pandora's box, but I'm willing to do that. Hello, Captain's Log, August 18th, 2021. I finally did that intro that people have been begging me to do. Hopefully you guys are satisfied. Today we are going to be talking about Chris Chan's YouTube account. If you guys haven't noticed, Chris Chan's YouTube account uploaded a video. This is not Chris Chan breaking out of jail and telling us his nefarious plans. This isn't Chris Chan being allowed to have a cell phone in jail and is telling us about the merge. No, instead this is just someone who has decided to upload a video onto Chris Chan's channel. Now I bet you're wondering, Dylan, what type of video would you post? What type of video would anyone post if they had access to Chris Chan's YouTube channel? The answer is a meme. It would always be a meme. I don't know why anyone would be shocked. It's a meme. It's always going to be a meme. Chris Chan's life is a meme. No one should be shocked at this revelation. But some people have been concerned, and they've been asking me, is this a nefarious troll? Is this Peter Griffin looking guy in control of Chris Chan's YouTube account? The answer to that is no. No, the guy in the video is not in control of Chris Chan's YouTube account. That video is a old clip from Anthony Legato, aka A-Log. And I actually hit him up to be sure that it was him, because I actually bother to do a little bit of research when I do my videos. And A-Log did confirm it's a video of his. If he wouldn't have confirmed it, I already found old videos of his room, so I could confirm that that was his room. But yes, it's an old A-Log video. And in case you didn't know, A-Log is an infamous Chris Chan figure. He's someone who used to hate on Chris and said that Chris Chan needed to be executed and all different types of terrible things. And he has since apologized for all of his actions, and he isn't that bad of a guy now. But he has an infamous reputation in the Chris Chan sphere, so uploading an Anthony Legato clip is definitely befitting, considering what Chris Chan has gotten himself into. Anthony always said that Chris Chan was bad, and I guess he was kind of right on that one. So the Anthony Legato clip is just him saying Jule, and it's been edited to where it has him saying it over and over and over again. It's not even that good of an edit, like the jump cut is really terrible, but that isn't the point. The point is just to be a funny meme. Now, I bet you're wondering, Dylan, should we be concerned? Is Chris Chan's account hacked? Probably not. One thing that most people who don't interact with Chris Chan probably doesn't know is that a lot of people have access to Chris Chan's social medias, mainly his YouTube, Twitter, and email, and it could be any of those people who uploaded the clip. Anthony Legato said that it was Noel who did it. I'm not going to confirm that, I'm just saying the speculation is out there. Personally, I think it could be anyone who has access to Chris Chan's accounts. I think it's just someone trying to stir the pot now since Chris Chan's in jail and he can't reverse it. I would actually say stay tuned, because you're probably going to see more shit like this happen on his Twitter, happen on his different accounts out there. I wouldn't doubt if more of these accounts are compromised and are going to be shitposting very soon, because the reality of things is Chris Chan is going to be away for a long time. And it'll be a long time before he can actually come out and do something. But hopefully you guys have learned something today. Peter Griffin is not in control of Chris Chan's Twitter account. The merge did not happen. There is most likely not a nefarious troll behind this. Chances are it's just one of the many people that Chris Chan trusted with his accounts. And hopefully you guys will calm down now. The videos aren't going to be deleted. It most likely isn't some nefarious troll. I doubt anything serious is going to happen. I think they just wanted to post a funny video so people could shit on Chris one more time. Hello guys, Captain's Log, August 20th, 2021. Today's topic is a topic I've heard a lot of people be really interested in, and I'm excited to talk about it. That being that Chris Chan failed the love quest. Now, for those of you guys who are wondering, the love quest is something that Chris Chan set out to do in his early 20s. And his main goal was supposedly to find a girlfriend that would be with him forever. And yes, that is what he really thought, because if you watch his video where he addresses everyone, he says that you should stay with your first partner. So he intended to get a girlfriend, and then that girlfriend stay with him forever. And he's such a wonderful person, no one would ever want to leave Chris, so why would they ever even think about it? So Chris Chan had a set of criteria for this girlfriend. If you want to know all the criteria, you can check out my video on the attraction signs where we actually go over all of them. There's a lot of things that he requested, like them having a job, them not being autistic, that they have to be somewhere near his age range. There's a lot of things, and they were also supposed to be slim. And today we're going to be going over how Chris Chan failed. He completely failed that love quest altogether. Miserably failed. The only thing I can give him credit for is that he didn't break the no darkies rule. He never went after a black girl, so if Chris Chan comes out of jail, just break the last rule, Chris. You might as well. So the first thing I want to go over is that Chris Chan had a date. Now this date was fictional, like most things in Chris Chan's life. It was set up. It was mainly just so someone in a pickle suit could steal Chris Chan's girlfriend. This girl is Emily. And during Emily and Chris's date, Chris Chan actually tried to grope her and tried to kiss her, despite her telling him not to multiple times. If you listen to the Emily call that she had with Chris Chan and recorded it after the date, she confronts Chris on all of this shit, and he doesn't deny it, which means it most likely happened. So if Chris Chan ever did go on a real date, chances are he would grope the woman and try to harass her. Now let's move on to Casey. Same thing happened with Casey, shock of all shocks. Chris Chan repeatedly tried to grope her, despite the fact that she asked him not to. And if it was a real relationship to begin with, he also lied about who he was, which means that he wasn't honest in a relationship, which was also another criteria that he had for his love quest. He was willing to get a woman by deceiving them, which is not true, and it's not honest. So he failed with Casey as well. Let's talk about what happened with him and Ivy. I could talk about a bunch of shit that happened with him and Ivy, but I think the main thing is that despite Ivy being a woman who, as far as I'm aware of, wasn't really even that big of a troll, and despite her actually trying to help him throughout most of their fake dating, Chris Chan still cheated on her with another troll girl named Vanessa Hudgens, which he thought was the real Vanessa Hudgens, which you shouldn't even be shocked that he would think he'd be able to get the real Vanessa Hudgens. But yeah, he cheated on Ivy. So you can add that he would cheat on women too. He'd grope them, he'd sexually harass them, and he'd cheat on them if he actually had a real girlfriend. And now we're getting on to the bigger stuff involving the love quest. Chris Chan pointed out that he needed a girlfriend so that he could have true and honest sex, and that sex isn't good unless it comes from a true sweetheart. Well, Chris Chan thought that he was going to be going to jail. Very ironic now. So he decided to hire a prostitute. Hiring a prostitute is not part of the love quest. That was not what it was meant to be, Chris. Chris Chan failed the love quest so hard that he had to hire a prostitute so he wouldn't be sent to jail as a virgin. And then he hired her again too. So if Chris Chan wasn't broke all the time, he'd probably be continuing to hire prostitutes if he's able to find them at all. Let's move on to closer to the modern day. Chris Chan talked about how he wanted to marry his sweetheart. Well, Chris Chan recently did get married, quote unquote. It was the fictional characters, but yet again, you shouldn't be shocked. But none of the characters fit his criteria at all. One, they're all Sonichu. Number two, they are, some of them, like, one of them's a guy, so that doesn't fit the love quest thing. The whole point of the love quest was not being gay. One of them is significantly younger than him, which also breaks the love quest because they're supposed to be 18 or older to his current age. So another fail for the love quest. And they were all with other people too. So that also fails the love quest because they're not boyfriend free or girlfriend free in this scenario. So Chris Chan being in the polyamorous relationship, that was a failure of the love quest. And now, moving on to what just recently happened. Chris Chan met a girl named Fiona, And Fiona is someone who's actually obsessed with Christian. Fiona actually wanted to fuck Christian. Fiona would dress up like Christian, idolized him. She was a fangirl of his. This is what Christian waited for his entire life. Yes, she is significantly younger than him, but I'm pretty sure that she can consent. The only thing that breaks his criteria about Fiona is that she had autism. And maybe that's the reason why he wasn't interested in her in the end. And yes, you heard me, despite the fact that she was boyfriend free, despite the fact that she wanted to have sex with him, Christian was not going to be in a relationship with Fiona. He was going to have sex with her once and then dump her. Like, he told her that she would find someone else in college. This is someone who idolizes the guy, someone who actually genuinely likes him, and he rejects them. And now, worst of all, and I know you guys saw this one coming from a mile away, worst of all, Christian would go on to fuck his own mom. He cucked Fiona, who actually genuinely liked him and genuinely wanted to be with him and was genuinely going to have sex with him so he could fuck his mom. Christian epically failed the love quest. The love quest was a failure. It never got seen through to the end. The only time he had sex was when he was either paying them or raping his mom. It turned out terribly. And then, despite the fact that he met so many fake girlfriends that said they wanted to have sex with him, and he did all this shit for them, when one actually does want to have sex with them, he writes her off and doesn't even care and goes and fucks his mom. So, at the end of the day, Christian is near his 40s. He fucked his mom, he fucked a prostitute, and he never had a real girlfriend. The love quest was a failure, and I think it's safe to say that Christian's life was a failure. Hello guys, Captain's Log, August 24th, 2021. Now some people brought up in my previous videos when I started using the Captain's Log intro, why are you saying Captain's Log but you're not mentioning a star date? Well, the reason why I'm not doing a star date is because I'm not in space. I'll admit originally that it was because I just forgot to say star date, but after seeing some comments of people saying that, I actually agree, and I remember that when I did my Captain's Log video, I actually pointed that out, that Christian didn't understand what Captain's Log was. I get that you guys want this to be as accurate to Christian's Captain's Logs as can be, but I feel more comfortable not listing out the star date. So, on to today's video topic, we are going to be pondering what if. What if Christian never made Sonichu? Now, for some reason, people believe that if Christian never made Sonichu, he would be the Ultra Chad-chan. That he would be buff, that he would be employed, that he would be happy. And if you know Chris, you know that's not true. That's not going to happen just because he didn't make Sonichu. But we're going to humor this what if anyway. I've been hearing a lot of people talk about what if Christian never made Sonichu. And I know quite a bit about Christian, so I'm going to throw my hat into the ring and try to answer this question. Just know I'm probably going to skim over a lot of stuff, but I'm just naming off the main things that still would have happened and some of the what ifs at the end to what could have happened just because he didn't make Sonichu. So, first of all, this is like the most important one. Christian still would have had autism. He still would have had all the issues that comes with autism. He would still be extremely gullible. He would still be a man-child. That's gonna happen regardless. He can't get rid of his autism, and autism isn't to blame on Sonichu. He still would have believed in the bear conductor. Regardless, Christian still would have gone to that mall. He still would have believed that the bear conductor was some type of deity, and he still would have changed his name to Christian. So, him being Christian Weston Chandler was unpreventable. Sonichu didn't cause that. He still would have had a recolor. Even without Sonichu, and a character that predates Sonichu is Bionic. Bionic is Sonic's long-lost twin brother, so Christian still would have made Bionic regardless if Sonichu existed or not. So he still would have had a Sonic recolor. Christian still would have had a ton of Pokemon OCs. Yes, Christian got into Pokemon before he made Sonichu. Christian was into Pokemon for quite a bit before he decided to make Sonichu. And he already had his wall of originals before Sonichu even existed. So the Wall of Originals still would have existed, Pokemon OCs would have still existed, and his Sonic OCs would still exist. So not much is changing so far. He still would have wore polo shirts. His shirt designs and his shirt choices were not impacted by Sonichu at all. Christian still would have wore the same outfits because he still would have gone to the same Goodwill to get them. So Christian would still be dressing the same regardless. He still would have called himself Ricardo. Christian would have still took Spanish class regardless, and still would have picked up the name Ricardo and wanted it to be his real name. Sonichu had no impact on him wanting to be called Ricardo. Christian still would have been fired from Wendy's. Christian worked at Wendy's without making Sonichu, and got fired from Wendy's with no involvement from Sonichu. So he still would have done the Donald Duck voice, and he still would have scared a child regardless if he made Sonichu or not. He still would have went on his sweetheart search. Christian started the sweetheart search after he made Sonichu, but Sonichu did not impact the sweetheart search. None of the rules involved Sonichu. Sonichu was not the inspiration for the sweetheart search. Christian still would have been lonely. He still would have wanted a girl. He still would have had the gal pals back in high school, regardless of Sonichu or not. So the love quest was unpreventable, and it would have happened regardless. He still would have had his run-ins with security. If he starts the sweetheart search, he will still have run-ins with the cops and the security guards of the places that he's loitering at. That is also unpreventable, and Sonichu did not impact it. The only thing I can say that wouldn't have happened is when he confronted them, he wouldn't have brought up Sonichu, and he might have not done the Kamehameha, but the Kamehameha still might have existed regardless of Sonichu or not. But he wouldn't have pretended like Sonichu was there. Maybe Bionic would have been there, but who knows? We can't really guarantee what would have been going through Chris's head at the time without Sonichu. Patty still would have died at the same time. Patty was an old dog. Patty died of old age. Patty was not trolled to death. Patty was not killed because of Sonichu. So Christian still would have lost his dog regardless, and still would have reacted in a similar way regardless of if he had run in with the trolls or not. He still would have been banned from the game place. Now this one's going to be kind of controversial because I know a lot of the trolling did play into Christian getting mad enough to get banned from the game place. But I think regardless, Michael Snyder wanted to ban Chris, and he would have found any reason to ban Chris, and Christian eventually would have fucked up again that would have made him get banned regardless. It doesn't matter if Sonichu existed or not. If Christian had the opportunity, he'd find a way to fuck it up, and he'd still get banned, because Michael Snyder wanted a reason to ban Chris and found it. Bob still would have died at the same time. Bob's death had nothing to do with Sonichu. Bob's death is partially, according to Chris, as a result of the trolls. I don't believe that. Bob ate fast food all the time. Bob had a weak body, Bob had a weak heart, and Bob died of old age because of that. I think that he still would have been bit by insects and still would have needed to go to the hospital, and he still would have had a weak heart regardless. It might have been caused because he had a fight with Barbara. It might have been caused because he had a fight with Christian. Who knows? There's endless possibilities, but regardless, Bob still would have ended up in the hospital, and he still would have died. Maybe it'd be a year before, maybe it'd be a year after. Who knows? It's mainly Bob's lifestyle that caused his death, not trolls. So at the end of this, we can say that all of Christian's childhood still would have been the same. His childhood had nothing to do with Sonichu, so he still would have won the sweepstakes, he still would have been entitled, he still would have been a mute, he still would have had all the struggles that he had as a child. Almost all of his high school life still would have been the same. That's because most of his high school life had nothing to do with Sonichu. He didn't make Sonichu up until the end, so all the high school struggles still would have been the same. He would still be an adult child who plays with toys. Christian would have still played with Legos regardless if he made Sonichu. Christian still would have been collecting toys regardless of Sonichu. He just wouldn't be making custom toys of Sonichu. But he already had a Bionic custom toy, so like I was saying, Bionic had a good chance of becoming Sonichu. Chris Chan still would be on welfare. Chris Chan got his tugboat because he graduated college and didn't know what to do with his life. I don't think that Sonichu would have impacted that too drastically. I think Chris Chan still would have been directionless because of his upbringing, and he still would have chose to not have a job, and he still would have chose to go on welfare. Chris Chan's house would have still burnt. Like I said, Bob would still die regardless. The fire wasn't caused by Sonichu. The fire was caused by Chris's own ignorance. He still would have plugged the coffee maker into the wall, and the door still would have rammed into it, causing the house fire. Chris Chan would still be in debt. Regardless of Sonichu, Chris Chan still doesn't know how to spend his money. Chris Chan still wastes his money. Chris Chan still stole money from Barb most of his life. So regardless of what happens with Sonichu, Chris still would have been in debt. Probably worse debt because there was no trolls to bail him out of it. He might have lost the house even sooner. Chris Chan might have not been trolled online. Now, I'm not going to guarantee that Chris Chan wouldn't be trolled at all. Like I was saying before, he was still a weirdo. He still creeped people out. And he was still very eccentric. There's still a good chance that people might have chose to document him. But without the catch of Sonichu, I doubt it would have been as big of a deal as it was. I think it's because of Sonichu and the Sonichu medallion and the Sonichu comics and the Sonichu legends that Chris Chan became the person he is online today. So I don't think there would have been trolling, and if there was trolling, it would have been more secluded and never would have blew up as big as it is today. Chris Chan might have made stories about Bionic. Now, there's a good possibility that Sonichu was inevitable. That even if Chris Chan wouldn't have mixed a Sonic and a Pikachu together, he still would have made comics about a Sonic OC. There's good chances that Chris Chan would have just made Bionic stories, and made more supporting characters that are knockoffs of Sonic characters for Bionic to hang out with, or hell, just a full-on Sonic story with Bionic in it. Chris Chan was still creative, Chris Chan still wanted to express himself, and Chris Chan still wanted to do comic books. So I think he might have made Bionic stories, and Bionic might have been his Sonichu, but there's no way to guarantee that. Now this one's a big one, and it's one people have asked questions about. Would he still be friends with Megan? I think that him and Megan's relationship would be strained, and that Megan wouldn't really like him too much. But I do think that Megan would still associate with Chris Chan. I think that without She Came for Quick, Chris would have been, like, annoying Megan, but Megan wouldn't have a reason to fully get rid of him. I think she would tolerate him and just accept that he's a weirdo and try to help him. I don't think Megan would have completely ditched him unless he tried to sexually assault her, which I'm not going to rule that out now. He might have not become trans. Now, I did a whole video on this talking about Chris Chan and his gender and sexuality. If you want to know more about it, go there. I get that with any normal person, you would say that they were born trans. They were born with gender dysphoria. They were always going to be trans regardless. But Chris Chan is someone who was white knighted and trolled into becoming trans. He was given these identities by people who wanted to fuck with him or people who wanted to control him. So without these people in his life, I doubt he would have came to that realization on his own. I think he still would have cross-dressed regardless, and I think he still would have been a cross-dresser, but I don't think that he would have called himself trans without the interactions of trolls and white knights. And finally, this is the big question. This is the thing that everyone is wondering. Would Chris Chan still fuck Barb? My answer to this is probably. Chris Chan was going to be desperate anyway, and without the connections of trolls, I don't know if Chris Chan would have been able to find a prostitute. Bob still would have died anyway, and Chris Chan, if he's desperate enough to fuck his mom now, he might have been desperate enough to fuck his mom then. And as you guys can see, a lot of Chris Chan's tragic life is unpreventable. A lot of the things that made Chris Chan Chris still would have happened regardless if he made Sonichu. Would Sonichu have prevented trolling? Yeah, if he didn't make Sonichu, he probably wouldn't have been fucked with as much. But there's still just as big of a chance of him turning bionic into Sonichu anyway, and then still getting fucked with. So at the end of the day, I'd say Chris Chan's life is a mess. But that's because Chris Chan is a mess. I don't think getting rid of Sonichu would fix anything. I think Chris-chan would still be Chris. We'd have few differences, if any. So, hopefully you guys got your question answered today. Hopefully you guys like this hypothetical. And hopefully you guys have a good rest of your day. Hello guys, Captain's Log, August 27, 2021. Today's discussion is about why you shouldn't work with White Knights, Trolls, or Weens. Now, the first group I want to talk about are the Trolls and Weens. And I know a lot of people don't know the definition to what a Ween is, so I'm going to help you figure out what a Ween is and how they're different from a Troll. A troll is someone who is wholeheartedly committed to fucking with Chris-chan, and Weens are wannabe trolls. Weens are people who want to milk Chris-chan's success, but they're not as committed as the trolls. So Weens are more like try-hard trolls and wannabe trolls, and trolls are the real deal. Now let's talk about the reasons why you shouldn't work with these type of people. Well, their prime directive is to directly fuck with Chris-chan, meaning that if you work with them, no matter what you do, no matter what you tell them, they are going to try to fuck with Chris. If that means they have to leak your DMs, they'll do that. If that means that they have to dox you, they'll do that. Their main goal is to fuck with Chris-chan and help themselves. They're not in it for you. They're not in it for the greater good. They're just there to fuck with him. That means that they have no morals, they have no standards, they will do anything that they have to do. They will lie to you, they will use you. You are just another pawn to the trolls, and the trolls never really gave a damn about anything you had to say or anything you had to do. And another key sign that the trolls are using you is the fact that they don't refer to you as one of them. If they don't let you in their uber secret group or let you be a part of their uber secret league of trolls, chances are you're a pawn. You're a Ponzi. You're someone used to divert attention away from them. You're a fall guy. There's a lot of people in these situations. If I had to name a couple, I would say Gibby and Fiona. These are people that the trolls are willing to use to fight for them, but they don't really matter to the trolls. They'll feed them false information. They'll feed them manipulated information, all in the attempts to help themselves and hurt Chris-chan. So the trolls are people you can't trust. The trolls have physically hurt Chris-chan, the trolls have mentally hurt Chris-chan, and the trolls have even gone so far to steal money from Chris-chan. These are the most untrustworthy people in the Chris-chan community, and I advise you to stay far away from trolls if you can. Our next group that we're going to be talking about are the White Knights. Now, people would think that if the trolls are bad, well, why not join the White Knights? Well, the White Knights are also bad. I know it makes me sound like a centrist, but please hear me out. I actually have somewhere that I'm going with this, so just give me a second to tell you what's going on here. The White Knights, like the trolls, also have a prime directive. Their prime directive is protecting Chris-chan, and that means that they're willing to go to the same extent that the trolls are. They will dox people, they will use people, they will lie to people, if in the end it can help Chris-chan. They keep Chris-chan knowledge to themselves and try to hide it from the public, and will only leak out information in small little droplets to the greater Chris-chan community, because they know that information is power, and they want all the power. These people will get close to Chris-chan and pretend to be Chris-chan's friend, and they'll probably get close to you and pretend to be your friend too. In the end, they're not your friend, they're not even friends with each other. Their only goal is to protect Chris. To give you an example of one of the biggest moments of white knighting is that there was a man named Jacob Sockness. Now, normally the White Knights just watch and they defend Chris-chan on Twitter, but the White Knights with Jacob Sockness decided to directly attack him. They got other Chris-chan YouTubers to make hate videos on Jacob Sockness and leaked them information that made Jacob Sockness look bad, all in the attempts to get Jacob Sockness away from Chris-chan so they could get closer to Chris-chan. This is the behavior of the White Knights. The White Knights deem who can be Christian's friend, and they deem who even have the rights to talk to Christian. These people want to own Christian and put him in a protective bubble so no one else can hurt him. They don't see him as an independent person, and they don't even really see him as someone who's flawed. These people are just as dangerous as the trolls, and a lot of White Knights end up becoming trolls. So, for the people who think that siding with the White Knights is better than siding with the trolls, no. They're on the same playing field, and they do the same fucked up shit. It's just one's trying to help Christian, and the other's trying to hurt him. That's the only difference between the trolls and the White Knights. Now, do you know what's similar between the trolls and the White Knights? They both feed into Christian's delusions. I think we can all say that Quickville isn't real. I think that we can all say that the merge isn't real. But both trolls and White Knights have pretended to be CPU goddesses. They've pretended to be a part of the merge. They've pretended to play a part in Christian's delusions. This only doubles down in Christian's mind that he's right, and enables him to continue to do the shit that we didn't want him to do to begin with. So that's the main thing that they both have in common. They're both enablers, and they're both people who feed into Christian's delusions. So, if you can't trust the Weens, and you can't trust the trolls, and you can't trust the White Knights, who can you trust? Well, that's simple. Just trust the Christorians. Trust the people on the Quickie who actually go out of their way to document everything that Christian does. The Quickie is the most reliable source for Christian info. And if the Quickie's down, go check out a Gino Samuel video. Or go check out a Rogue Internet Man video. And if you trust me, check out my videos. As far as I'm aware, Gino has never worked with the Trolls or White Knights. Rogue has never worked with the Trolls or White Knights. And I know I haven't worked with the Trolls or White Knights. These are all somewhat reliable information sources on Christian. There are a lot of bad actors out there. And I think at this point you understand who are the people you can't really rely on. If I didn't mention them here, they're usually biased in some way, and I'm not going to shit talk them in this video, because this video wasn't made to shit talk them. Now, I do plan on doing a part 2 to this video, where I go over the Kiwi Farms, because I know a lot of you guys are probably thinking, is the Kiwi Farms a reliable source of Christian information? The answer is yes and no. And I will make a whole video talking about how you can use the Kiwi Farms to research Christian, but also how you could be misled by the Kiwi Farms because you didn't know how to use it. So if you guys want to know more about the Kiwi Farms, and you want to know more about how to use it, and more about the Christian sphere in general, stick around, because I plan on doing another video real soon. Hello, Captain's Log, September 1st, 2021. Now, this video is going to be a continuation from the discussion that we had last time. If you missed last time's discussion, we were talking about the White Knights and the Trolls, and why you shouldn't trust either of them, and you shouldn't be a part of either of their groups. In that video, I mentioned that I would do a video talking about how to use the Kiwi Farms. Now, I am by no means an authority on the subject. I'm not telling you that you have to do any of this, and this video isn't made for people who already have a Kiwi Farms account, or people who already use the Kiwi Farms regularly. This video is for the new people, the people who are just getting into Christian, people who don't know the ropes, and people who are confused about the life around Christian Weston Chandler. Not everyone knows about the Kiwi Farms, so this video is made to hopefully educate them and give them some advice on how to use the Kiwi Farms. I'm not going to say that I'm going to get everything right. I'm not gonna say that you have to follow my advice. It's just out there if you want to. So with all that out of the way, let me get to my first bit of advice. That being that you don't have to make an account to read the forums. A lot of people seem to think that you have to make an account to be on Kiwi Farms. No, it's not like Twitter and it's not like Facebook. You can be on the farms without having an account. It's more like 4chan if you have to have a comparison. You can read anything that anyone posts without having to have an account. And right now, getting an account is really difficult because it's invite only, because a lot of people are coming on there to stir up trouble. The Kiwi Farms has been in a lot of hot water recently, so they have temporarily disabled regular people from making accounts anyway. So, I understand why a lot of people are intimidated. A lot of people see the doxing that goes on Kiwi farms and they get worried. They're afraid that they're going to get doxed. And that's a valid complaint. That's a valid issue. If you don't want to get doxed, just don't register. You can read anything that you want to there, and there's no way anyone can find out who you are if you don't make an account. So that's my first bit of advice for you. The second bit of advice would be check out the highlighted section of any article that you choose to read. At the beginning of almost every single thread on Kiwi Farms, there is a highlighted section. That's where the original poster, if they're doing their job, updates everything about the person they're covering. You'll see little highlighted sections, and a lot of the time it'll be labeled as spoilers. Check out all of that. A lot of the times it will link you to later parts of the thread that would normally be hard to get to. So if a thread is like 200 pages long, the highlighted section will really help catch you up on everything and help link you to the parts of the forum that you need to go to in order to find the evidence that you are looking for. The highlighted section is a major help, and I feel like a lot of people just ignore the highlighted section. So remember, at the beginning of every thread practically, there's a highlighted section, and it will tell you when there are updates to the thread that you were trying to read. Now, what if you don't want to read the highlighted section? What if you just want to go through the thread reading everything? Well, for that, I have to warn you about something. Anyone can post on Kiwi Farms. Anyone with an account can post on a thread. So that means that sometimes there might be speculation, sometimes there might be false information, sometimes there might be gaslighting. Who knows? Anyone can post anything. So if you want to be 100% safe when it comes to reading through Kiwi Farms threads, it's safe to just go with the stuff that the person who made the thread posts. Sometimes you'll get information from other people, but unless the original poster verifies what they're saying, I would take what the other people post with a grain of salt. Usually the original poster is the person who's the most active in the thread. They're the person who updates the highlighted section, and they usually correct people if they spread misinformation in the thread. So remember, keep an eye on the original poster and read posts that that person makes, because usually it will either verify other posts or debunk other posts made by random users. And finally, do your own research. Don't blindly trust strangers. For some reason in this modern age, people want to trust anyone. There's a lot of people out there who randomly trust me. I advise you to not randomly trust me. I don't know everything. No one knows everything. Do your own research. If you hear me talk about something, look into it yourself. There are plenty of other websites where you can fact check stuff. There are plenty of other resources that you have at your disposal in the internet age to where you can fact check something someone says online. Don't blindly trust people. Don't just believe what someone says. Fact check it and make sure that what you're saying is correct. If you do all these steps, then I'm pretty sure you will be able to guide your way through Kiwi Farms. Hello, Captain's Log, September the 7th, 2021. I'm back after a little bit of a break, and I immediately want to get back into our Chris-Chan discussions. Today we are going to be talking about a fictional character Chris-Chan created, that character being Rose Chu. Now, I know some people call her Rose Chu, mostly D-Stex fans. I've also said Rose Chu. I don't really care between the two names. Chris-Chan named her Rose Chu. That's the way that he said it. Some people say it one way, some people say it another way. I choose to use both interchangeably. So, if you're gonna get mad at that, oh well. Sometimes I'll call her Rose Chu, sometimes I'll call her Rose Chu. For today's discussion, we're gonna have to go all the way back to the beginning of Chris-Chan trolling. When people originally wanted to fuck with Chris, one of the things that they would tell Chris is that his character Rose Chu was a guy. Now, for most people, they would shrug this off and be like, oh well, some weirdos think that my character's a dude, or they're just saying that to get me mad. But Chris-Chan chose instead to defend Rose Chu. And if you look at his logic, it makes perfect sense. If you go all the way back to Sonichu's creation, you would see that Chris-Chan put himself into Sonichu. Later it would be literally, but at the beginning it was figuratively. But Sonichu was a self-insert. If we read the comic that Christian made for his friend Sarah, called Christian and Sarah's Life Shares, we would see that Christian literally put himself into the role of Sonichu. Sonichu represented him in the story, and Rosechu represented Sarah, someone who he was trying to get with at the time and thought was his soulmate. So that would mean that Rosechu is his perfect ideal woman, just like Sonichu is his perfect ideal self. Now, I know some people would be like, but Dylan, later on, Christian would make his own Sonichu form. And to that, I would have to say, Christian has so many self-inserts, Sonichu definitely is one of them. He has the Cherokee-chan pony as well. He has the other pony OC. He has multiple versions of fictional Chris living in Quickville. Christian has more than one self-insert, and Sonichu definitely was one of them. But hopefully now, with that out of the way, you guys understand why Christian was so defensive over Rosechu. Because when you insult Rosechu, you don't just insult Rosechu. You insult his future wife, and you insult his own sexuality. So Christian, when defending Rosechu's sexuality, was really just defending himself. And that's where it comes from. It comes from a place of ego. Christian saw it as a slight at him, that people were calling him gay, not calling Sonichu gay. Now, the discussion of Rosechu being a man or not wouldn't be taken seriously till years later. Originally, it was just people on ED and people on other places making art of Rosechu with a pickle. Sometimes literally a pickle, and sometimes a dick. So, just know, this was very serious trolling. But, this art would really disturb Christian, and it would make him want to draw sex scenes between Rosechu and Sonichu in the comic to prove that they are straight. It would have him show Rosechu's nudes a lot in the comic in an attempt to prove to people that she doesn't have a dick. Because if he doesn't draw her with a dick, she's never had a dick. But this conversation would be taken seriously years later when the Pokemon video games introduced genders into the Pokemon world. Now, there's always been gendered Pokemon, but it's very different now than it was when Christian made Rosechu. The tip of a Raichu's tail can indicate if it's a male or female, and Christian just so happened to draw Rosechu's tail like a male. Now, when Christian made Rosechu, this wasn't a thing, and all he had to do was say, well, that wasn't a thing. I didn't understand that that would become a thing. I'll fix her tail, one little retcon, boom, and it's done. Now, some people would be like, Christian would never retcon Sonichu. Christian wouldn't redraw all the pages with the Rosechu's tail. Christian has retconned the comic multiple times, and went back and redrew segments without any problem. Christian decided that Eggman never appeared in one of his comics, so he went back and drew out Eggman and created an entirely new character to replace him. Fixing a tail would not be that big of a deal. Fixing a tail would be better than all the other shit that he did to prove that Rosechu was a woman. But for Christian, he was fully believing that Rosechu was a woman, and that the tail didn't matter. He didn't even want to address the tail thing. He didn't even want to make an excuse for the tail thing. But the tail thing would continue. Eventually, there would be a fan comic made called Rosechu's Story. Rosechu's Story is a fan comic made by someone on Kiwi Farms. In this comic, Rosechu would go on and explain that when they were a Raichu, they were male, but when they evolved, they turned female. And this just happens with some Pokemon. Now, apparently, this is an actual fact. I don't know enough about Pokemon to really educate you on how it works, but just know when some Pokemon evolve, they can actually switch their genders. So, it's not completely new in the world of Pokemon that this could happen. And it was through this explanation that Christian finally started to call Rosechu a man. And Christian can be seen all the way back when this comic released, starting to accept that at one point Rosechu might have been a man. But he accepts that Rosechu is a female now, so it doesn't matter. But this is the beginnings of Christian accepting that Rosechu is trans. Now, Shortly after this, the Idea Guys would be introduced. The Idea Guys were a bunch of trolls who wanted to mess with Christian by feeding into his delusions and then torturing his fictional world. The Idea Guys convinced Christian that Rose Chu was 100% trans. Not that they evolved and then lost their genitalia, not that the tail was a mistake or anything. They convinced Chris that Rose Chu was 100% a male character who got a sex change operation to become female. So, Christian spent all these years fighting against the trolls. The whole trolling stuff began to defend the honor of Rose Chu. Christian made comics where Rose Chu and Sonichu had sex to prove that Rose Chu was a woman. Christian made them have kids to prove that Rose Chu was a woman. This was an important plot point in Sonichu and in Christian's life. And because some LARPing loser called the Idea Guy told him that Rose Chu was a man, he just accepted it as fact. He didn't argue about it. He didn't get mad about it. He cried about it, but he accepted it as a fact, proving that Christian really doesn't have any stand in his own logic. Christian will bend to anyone's demands if they're willing to get onto the same level as him and LARP with him. Rose Chu's sexuality never mattered. Rose Chu's gender never mattered. Christian only defended it because it was a slight at himself. The second that Christian started thinking that he was trans, and the second that Christian was told that Rose Chu was trans again in the modern day, it doesn't matter what his logic 10 years ago was. It doesn't matter how hard he fought for it. He just accepted that Rose Chu was trans. And I think that this is one of the biggest signs that Christian's mind has deteriorated, even more than where it was at over 10 years ago. Christian used to be very defensive over his characters, but now he just lets anyone say anything about them, and then he makes it canon. So, Rose Chu went from being a character that was 100% a woman, to being a character with a male's tail, to being a character who was a male and then evolved into a female, to being a character who was born male, had genitalia, and then got a magical sex change operation to turn into a female. You can see how slowly, even though Christian never wanted it, even though Christian fought so hard to defend her, the trolls won in the end. Rose Chu was a man, and she had a pickle. It didn't matter how hard he tried to fight it. 10 years later, the trolls finally got their way, and Rose Chu did play with her pickle. Hello guys, Captain's Log, September 14th, 2021. Now I know it's been a bit since I did one of these videos. I actually had a lot of stuff go on in my life recently. It's pretty crazy, and it involves being hacked. It's a really crazy story, and I don't really have time to explain it here. Just know I've been wanting to upload. I just had to deal with a lot of personal problems and a lot of computer problems. There was a lot of things holding me back from doing videos recently, but hopefully I've got all that dealt with, and I can actually get back to doing videos now. Today's video is going to be a discussion that I've wanted to have for a long time now, and it's definitely one of the discussions I wanted to first have when I started this series, that being about Evales. Now, if I told you guys that there was a lost Sonichu character, most of you would probably be like, I don't care, fuck Sonichu and fuck Christian, I don't care. Well, that's a fair reaction. But for the rest of you guys who are actually curious about Sonichu characters, there is a long-lost, forgotten Sonichu character named Evales. Now, for those of you guys who don't know about Sonichu lore, mostly every single Sonichu character started out as a character in Christian's Wall of Originals. The Wall of Originals was a bunch of fan-made Pokemon that Christian made, just for fun, and he never planned on playing with them in public. They would hang up on his wall, and most of these Pokemon ended up being recycled into Sonichu characters. When I covered the Wall of Originals a few years ago, you could see really early art for Sonichu, Rose Chu, Black Sonichu, and so many more. Well, one of the characters we kept seeing on the wall was Evales. Eivales is a weird combination between Eevee and Tails, and I was wondering why. Why did he create a Tails equivalent in Sonichu? There is no need for a Tails equivalent in Sonichu, because in Sonichu, Sonichu is followed by Rosechu. Rosechu would be kinda like his Tails equivalent, because she definitely doesn't act like Amy Rose. Because Sonic doesn't really hang out with Amy Rose in the games, she kinda just stalks him. So why did Chris Chan think that he would need a Tails equivalent, and why did he decide to get rid of him? Well, it's actually a really interesting story, and it involves analyzing Chris Chan and figuring out how he views the world. So when Chris Chan was in school, he was told by a lot of people that Sonic and Tails were gay, and it's through his hatred of gay people and his fear of gay people that he started to dislike Tails as a character. And I know it seems silly, but when you're someone like Chris Chan who are obsessed with being straight, if you hear that a character's trying to take your character off of the straight path, you're going to be upset about that character. So I guess Chris Chan made Eivales before he found out about the Tails is gay thing, or heard about the Tails is gay thing. I guess he watched too much Gamer Guy, and he decided to get rid of Eivales. But what's funny is this actually shows more of Chris Chan's broken psyche. In the games and in any other continuity, Sonic and Tails are practically brothers. They are really close friends, and this is something that Chris Chan can't understand. Chris Chan's never had a friend that was that close to him. Most of his friends used him, and most of his friends weren't actually even his friends. So to see a friendship, especially between two guys, which Chris Chan didn't have a lot of guy friends at all, I don't think Chris Chan could understand that that isn't gay. And another thing that could be important is the fact that even though Sonic and Tails most of the time identify as brothers, I can see why Chris Chan couldn't understand that either, especially with what's happened recently. I guess Chris Chan never fully understood that you don't fuck your family. And if you call someone brother and you consider them a brother, chances are you don't want to fuck them. So this really just shows an interesting view into Chris Chan's mind. I don't know what Eivales would have been used for. I don't know what Eivales could have been used for. He didn't seem like he would have any interesting powers. He didn't seem like he had anything really interesting about him at all. But I guess if I'm going to play hypothetical for a second, if I were to implement Eivales into the story, I would have it to be where he can switch between his evolutions. He could be Eivales in one form, then he could transform into a fire form temporarily with a Firestone, which would be his Flareon. Then he could turn into a Jolteon. Just use Power Stones or Evolution Stones to achieve temporary transformations, kind of like how Sonic uses the Chaos Emeralds to turn to Super Sonic. He would basically be a character who could turn super, but only needs one stone. I think that would be a really interesting take for this character, and if anyone were to use Eivales, I think that would be an interesting path to take him down. If I had to guess what his personality was going to be like, I would say that he would just be Tails, but an Eevee. That seems to be a common thing with Sonichu characters, that they're based off of a character, they look pretty similar, and they act pretty similar. And I've read all the early versions of Sonichu comics, I've read all the proto-Sonichu issues, and Eivales never appeared in any of them. So Chris Chan decided to scrap Eivales way before he decided to start making comics. And for those of you guys who don't know, Chris Chan actually made the Wall of Originals before he made the comics. And Chris Chan played around with toys of the characters before he actually did anything writing-wise with them. So, Eivales is a forgotten character, and he's mostly forgotten because Chris Chan couldn't realize that Tails the Fox wasn't gay with Sonic. It's weird that Chris Chan couldn't understand the relationship Sonic and Tails had. It's weird that Chris Chan just let random people tell him something and then he took it as fact. But this is all stuff that Chris Chan would do later on in life anyway. So it's not really a shock. And I'm not really shocked that Eivales met the cutting block. It's really sad because Evels looked like he could have been an interesting character. It's really sad because I could see a lot of people doing interesting stuff with him. So if anybody out there is running a Sonichu fan comic, for the two of you guys who don't hate Chris Chan now, I would say check this out. Use him in your comic, and let's see if we can do something interesting with this forgotten Sonichu character. Now, I'm well aware that Chris Chan's court date is coming up soon. When it happens, I will cover it, and whenever there's updates, I will cover those too. But right now, we're in a bit of a dry patch in Chris Chan news, and unlike some people, I don't really feel like covering nothing. So I'll do a Chris Chan update when there's actually something to update you guys on. I'm not just going to give you scraps. I'm going to wait till there's more to pick at. So when Chris Chan actually goes to court, that's when I'll cover it. So for those of you guys who are asking when I'm going to cover Chris Chan going to court, I'll cover it when he's in court. Hello, Captain's Log, September 15th, 2021. Now today we're going to be covering a story that I've wanted to talk about for a long time, and a story that you guys have probably heard if you watch my streams a lot, that being how I got into Chris Chan. Now this story starts all the way back in 2014, and yes, it really does go that far back. Me and my friend Devin, he is a guy I know in real life, and he used to be on my channel way back when, so if you watched my channel for years, you probably know who I'm talking about. We were playing a game where we just look up random stuff online. And what we were doing that day was Your Name the Hedgehog. Eventually we just started throwing random things in there to see what would pop up, and we ended up looking up Pikachu the Hedgehog. Pikachu the Hedgehog, of course, brought up Sonichu. We saw a little bit about Sonichu, we saw a little bit of the comics, we didn't read any of the comics in full, we didn't know who made it, we just knew that Sonichu existed. We knew that this was a thing that existed out in the real world. So that was all I knew about Sonichu at the time. Well, later on, the same year actually, I was in a group on Facebook called The World of Sonic the Hedgehog. That group has since renamed a couple times over. I no longer have a Facebook, so I can't tell you the name that it has now, but just know it does exist, and there's no way to verify this story because they wipe the board a lot, so my old posts are probably gone. But way back when, around the time of the Blue Arms incident, Chris Chan was on that group, and he was posting about Sega changing Sonic's arms to blue. And the reason why I know about this happening at all is because the users and the admins on the page told everyone to not interact with Chris Chan, that they had every intention to ban him, and that they just hadn't gotten around to it. Well, I decided to check out what Chris Chan was doing. I wanted to know what this weird Blue Arms stuff was, and I saw that he was sharing around a letter, a totally legit letter that definitely came from Sega, that told him that they were changing Sonic's arm color to blue in every part of the franchise, classic, modern, etc. Well, I thought that this was funny, and so because April Fool's Day was right around the corner, I'm pretty sure, I could be misremembering, but I wanted to make a joke video. So I decided to cover this story and treat it legit. In my video, I didn't mention Chris Chan at all. I didn't even know that he was a lolcow. I didn't know that he was internet famous. So for those of you guys who are going to say that I trolled Chris Chan or that I'm some type of Chris Chan troll or ween, I'm not. I just covered the story as is, like it was legit. And Chris Chan never saw my video, and my video wasn't even up that long because I got hacked. I got hacked in that same year. They took down most of my old videos, which is why my old videos are just gone completely, and they changed my URL to some very inappropriate things. Maybe I'll talk about that one day if I decide to do real life stories on my channel instead of just Chris Chan and Sonic related stuff, but that's a whole nother story for a different day. But they ended up deleting that video. The video was just me reading the letter straight out and treating it like it was legit. I got angry and said that Sega needed to change Sonic's arms color back, and that was it. That was the whole thing. I didn't fuck with Chris Chan, I didn't interact with Chris Chan, I just read his thing as a joke for my audience. And that's as far as that went. It would be a bit till I actually found out who Christian was and what this whole thing was about. Later on, he got kicked from that Facebook group, and I heard that he got arrested. And when I saw the photo, I saw that they had Sonichu next to him. And I'm like, oh wow, this is that Pikachu Sonic thing. He wrote that. And I'm someone who kind of believes that if there's a coincidence, you need to follow that. So the fact is, the same year that I found the Pikachu Sonic thing, I also was drawn to Christian. So I decided to look more into that, and continue to look into that. Now, this was well before the Geno Samuel documentary, so there was no quick way to learn about Christian. I had to learn about Christian the hard way. I went on the Quickie and read all the information that I could about Christian, because I planned on covering him one day. I planned on documenting Christian one day. And for the Sonichu comics, there really wasn't an efficient way to read them, so I started watching D-Steck's Sonichu review. And I watched all the episodes as they came out. I watched every Summer of Sonichu until he was done with the reviews completely. And I really liked D-Steck's videos, and I would still recommend you check out his Sonichu reviews. They're actually really good. They're probably one of the best Sonichu reviews out there. D-Steck's isn't good anymore, unfortunately, but at least those reviews still stand, and they are actually really good Christian content. He doesn't just review the comic, he actually gives a whole lot of information about Christian, and this was a good way to get into Christian to begin with. Later on, I would make another April Fool's Day video called Top 10 Sonichus. This was a few years down the line. And in that video, I was totally not serious. I had Rick Astley playing in the background. And I said that Magichan was my favorite Sonichu because he was purple. So, not a legit video. Some people took it seriously. Those people are dumb. It was just a joke video. It would still be another year or so before I ended up covering Christian honestly and trying to actually do content on him. And the reason why I decided to cover Christian is because I saw people like Base Shaman covering Christian, and I didn't like the way that Base Shaman was covering Christian. Now, I don't hate Base Shaman, I really don't. I just think that the way that he covers Christian content will give people a false idea on who Christian is, and will lead people to think that Christian needs to be pitied. And I thought that the way that he was covering Christian would lead more people to fucking with Christian and giving Christian money, which is never a good thing. It wasn't a good thing for back then, and it wasn't a good thing here recently. So I decided to start covering Christian, and when I decided to start covering Christian, I covered him more cynically. I'd been wanting to do a series called Sonic Insanity, where I cover insane Sonic people, and I thought Christian would be a good launching point. So I started covering Christian content to promote Sonic Insanity, and eventually a Christian YouTube community sprung up. People saw me as someone who was important in it, and I continued to do Christian videos ever since. And that was the story of how I got into Christian and how I got into Christian YouTubing. Now, I know it's very weird, and you guys are probably going to think that I made some of it up, because it is really coincidental. But it seems like no matter what, throughout my life, throughout my recent life on the internet, I have been drawn to Christian. It was almost like I was always intended to cover Christian's life. I was always intended to make Christian videos, and no matter what I did, I kept running into him on the internet. So I accept that I'm going to cover Christian content. I accept that some people are going to see me as the Christian guy, and that's fine. I chose this path, I chose to do these types of videos, and I'm really glad that I can continue to do them, and I'm glad that you guys consider me a reliable source for Christian information. I've been on the scene since before a lot of people who are into Christian now, so it's really good to be able to tell people about this crazy stuff that Christian's done throughout his life. Hello, Captain's Log, September 16, 2021. And in case you guys noticed the background, yes, this is a courtroom update. I promised you guys a courtroom update a few videos ago, and now I'm doing it. But I hate to disappoint you guys, there isn't much to talk about. And it's not because no one showed up to film him, it's not because no one documented this, it's because the trial didn't happen. A continuance was ordered, which means that the court proceedings is going to be rescheduled to another day. I know some of you guys are really excited to see if the Pickle Man would show up. Some of you guys are really excited to see if Christian was going to get in trouble. Some of you guys were really excited to see if Barb would defend him. But sadly, it isn't going to happen. Christian's court date has been rescheduled to November. I don't know the exact date in November, but somewhere around November. Which means for all of October, we are going dark again on Christian news. There isn't going to be anything to report on. There isn't going to be anything to speculate on. There isn't really going to be anything to do at all. Because they have ordered this continuance to move the trial to another date. And the main reason why this is happening is because Christian's lawyer is trying to get them to evaluate Christian's mental health. They are trying to push for that Christian is not mentally well. That's why he is trying to extend the court date. And this is actually a well-known strategy. A lot of people have used it. I think that they are definitely going to try to get off on an insanity plea or some type of plea that Christian didn't know what he was doing and he didn't realize that it was wrong. Now, I know there's a lot of evidence to disprove that. That'll be up for the courtroom to decide when they finally get around to seeing all of the evidence. I'm really interested to see where this trial is going. And I'm really interested to see just how long they're going to push this off. If I was his lawyer, I would definitely try to extend this as far as I can to try to get the heat to die down from the case. Because right now, everyone is looking at this case because the Christian incest story really blew up. And it blew up bigger than what a lot of people could anticipate. So I'm sure that the lawyer is just going to keep pushing it back in the attempts to get some heat to cool down off of the Christian trial. And then he'll try to smooth his way in with some type of insanity plea or some type of plea that Christian's autism prevented him from knowing that fucking his mom was wrong. Those are just my predictions. I've had the same prediction since my first Christian courtroom video. I hate that I couldn't show you guys anything today. I hate that I couldn't really tell you anything new. But I guess you know now that it didn't happen. The courtroom scene didn't happen. Christian didn't stomp his feet and scream like a child. He didn't demand for more Legos. Christian didn't get to do anything today. So, like usual, Christian disappointed us all. Hello, Captain's Log, October 6, 2021. For those of you guys who do not know, today is Taylor's birthday. So it'd be nice if you went down the comments section and typed Happy Birthday, Taylor. Let's get on to today's discussion. Today we are going to be talking about something I didn't think I'd ever have to talk about when I first got into Sonichu. That being, there is now an unironic fandom for Sonichu. Yeah, that's right, you heard me. You heard correctly. Sonichu now has an unironic fandom. Sonichu is unoriginal. It is literally just a combination of Pokemon's Pikachu and Sonic's Sonic. They're just mixed together into a recolor. So it's weird that this recolor has spawned an entire fandom of its own. There are OCs in this fandom. There are recolors in this fandom. It is very strange to see a recolor being recolored. An OC being spun off into other OCs. It's weird. It's a weird thing that I don't see too often. So let's talk about the history of Sonichu and how this happened. So when Sonichu was first discovered by the internet, it was just ridiculed. It was mocked, no one cared about it, no one liked it. It was just a way to fuck with Christian. And that's the only reason why people cared about Sonichu at all, was to fuck with Christian. Well, Alec Benson Leary kind of started to change everything. He made Asperchu. And there are genuine fans of Asperchu. Asperchu is a satirical take on Sonichu's world. It would be the first Sonichu fan comic, so Asperchu kind of laid the path for every other one of these characters. Now, Asperchu was done to fuck with Chris. Chris said that he didn't consider himself to have Asperger's and didn't like Asperger's, so Asperchu is basically Chris Chan with Asperger's. It was made to shit on Chris Chan, and this was the standard at the time. After Asperchu, there'd be a bunch of knockoff comics that just kind of tried the same thing. It would be people murdering Sonichu characters being in dark situations. There would even be Sonichu continuations that got really dark and had all the characters die. That was the status quo for a while. Kiwi Farms later would change this status quo. This would be much after the original Chris Chan trolling had stopped. There would be 2 fan comics made on Kiwi Farms that really started up fan comics of Sonichu again. Those comics being The Real Sonichu, which is yet again another dark satirical take on Sonichu, but actually does have some heart and soul put into it, and isn't as try-hard as Asperchu. And then there's also Rose Chu's Story. Rose Chu's Story pokes fun at Chris, but in a way that Chris Chan wouldn't even notice. It is a troll comic, but it does have a lot of genuine stuff in it. And the redesigns of the characters are actually pretty appealing. The twist on the story is actually pretty interesting, and it's a comic that Chris Chan actually ended up liking himself. So now we have Asperchu, The Real Sonichu, and Rose Chu's Story. All 3 really good comics, inspiring people to do more with Sonichu and the entire Sonichu world. Well, it wouldn't be until someone ended up remaking all of Sonichu issue 0 that people found even more interest in redoing Sonichu stuff. And there's a guy on DeviantArt who I will have listed in the description below, who does amazing remake covers for all of the original Sonichu comics. I really wish that he would do a complete remake of all of Sonichu, but he has said that he is not interested in it when I asked him months ago. So, unfortunately, that won't be happening. But there are other Sonichu projects in the work, that being a comic called Sonichu A+, which is a complete reimagining of Sonichu's world. Helena also has her own Sonichu comic and Sonichu continuation. Even I have humored the idea of doing a Sonichu comic a few times, even though I haven't been able to get any of them to go anywhere, but I've been humoring it. And it's weird seeing how many people genuinely like Sonichu. If I had to pinpoint where the modern rise in the Sonichu interest comes from, I would say that it's Project S&T. S&T decided to do redesigning Sonichu characters on her channel. S&T is big in the Sonic the Hedgehog community, and I think when S&T focused on Sonichu on her Sonic channel, it got a lot of Sonic fans genuinely interested in Sonichu. People wanted to see these characters. People wanted to see more with these characters. And now since Chris Chan is a pariah again, he's famous nationwide, I would even say worldwide at this point, a lot more people are looking at Sonichu. A lot more people are trying to read Sonichu. And a lot more people see the potential in Sonichu. Right now, there is no full remake of Sonichu, and I really doubt there ever will be. But you can read Sonichu as is. There are plenty of archives. I'll link a couple in the description below, including one that I run myself, where I went through the later issues of Sonichu, removing all of the retcons, so character names stay consistent. And that was a really hard task, but I'm glad that I did it, because now you can read through Sonichu without people's names changing randomly. So, it is a very strange thing to see people go from ripping on Sonichu to people actually genuinely liking Sonichu. People like the world, people like the characters, and people think that this character has potential. People think that this world has potential. Me personally, I think Sonichu is a shitty recolor. I see no potential in Sonichu, and if I ever did a fan comic, it would be more so to continue what Chris Chan did than me actually liking the idea of Sonichu. Sonichu is unoriginal, Sonichu is cringy. If I do anything Sonichu related, it's usually in a light-hearted sense, not sincerely. Hello, Captain's Log, October 8th, 2021. Tomorrow is my birthday, so I won't be uploading tomorrow. And yes, I know in my last video was Taylor's birthday. Our birthdays are just coincidentally close to each other. It's a very good coincidence. Today, we are going to be talking about Chris Chan's made-up religion, and how it makes no fucking sense. Yeah, what a shock. The religion made by a crazy guy makes no sense. Well, let's talk about some of the weird shit Christian has believed in and why it just contradicts what he believes in now. So the first deity in Christian's religion would have to be the God Bear. God Bear is an entity that Christian met at the mall, and it told him that he needed to change his name because the bear just didn't get his name right. But Christian did see this as an actual deity, and even referred to it as such in his comics and in real life. So God Bear is the first deity in Christian's religion, and he's definitely one of the lower ranking deities. Well, in the Sonichu comics, Christian would establish the Ancient Prophecy. Now, the ancient Cherokean leader that Christian is reincarnated from, he's not really a god per se, but he is kind of treated like a god. He's more so just like a ripoff of the Pharaoh from Yu-Gi-Oh! But I'm going to put him up here in the deities and part of the religion because the Ancient Prophecy was very relevant to why Christian thought that he could be God. So the Cherokean leader and the Cherokean powers and the Ancient Prophecy is one of the stepping stones of Christian's evolution to being a god. And him having the Ancient powers basically gave him god powers. He could transform his body at will. He could take things from his fictional world and make them real. Like, he could take inanimate objects and bring them to life. He was able to clone himself to make his twin sister. The Ancient powers basically allowed him to do anything. He could even steal powers from other people, like he does all the time in the comics, stealing powers from other Sonichus. So, Ancient powers were pretty OP, but they weren't as OP as he would get later on. Now, how the Ancient powers worked at first was that Christian had a magical medallion. And he made the medallion himself, but for some reason it is magical. Later on, he would retcon the medallion to be just a conduit of magic, and he could transfer the magic from medallion to medallion, so when people steal the medallion or get him to shove it up his butt, he can still have his powers. He also said the powers came from his high school ring, but now, later on, it's been established that the powers can just be held in his ring, and the ring really isn't the source of any power in particular. So, we have the high school ring, we have the Sonichu medallion, and we have these vague and mysterious Ancient powers and Ancient prophecy. And that would be the status quo for a while. Christian would just have these powers, he could do whatever the fuck he wanted. It didn't matter. Now, this is where I'm going to start butchering shit, because I know little to nothing about the Neptunia shit, and I'm not going to look into it. I have no interest in it, and I'm not going to look into Neptunia for Christian. But the idea guys came along, and they got him to believe in Neptunia shit. So basically, Christian believes that he is some type of fusion between the goddess of the Commodore Nation and the goddess of the fucking Sega Dreamcast. He believes he's a fusion of them. And there's another offshoot before this where he thinks he's a hippie from the 1970s, but I'm not including the hippie because the hippie has no abilities and has no magical powers as far as I know, so hippie is being disregarded. We're talking just about Neptunia. So Christian believes that he's a fusion between two Neptunia goddesses, and he ended up adding those names to his full name, and his full name is now just ridiculous. Now, the Neptunia powers were supposed to give him power over reality in our world, but he could only access the power of our world when the dimensional merge happened. And the dimensional merge was supposed to merge the reality of fiction with our normal reality. So it would be almost like an apocalyptic event where Christian would become one of the gods among all gods. When Christian talked about the other gods, he mentioned God, who he refers to as Emmanuel, or the Jewish God, and he mentions Jesus, and he mentions that God and Jesus are separate, even though that contradicts Christianity, but whatever. Later on, Christian would say that despite God's name being Emmanuel, that God is a woman, but Jesus is a man, and he does talk to Jesus, and he does talk to God from time to time, and that they are separate people. Well, Here recently, Chris Chan has changed that yet again. Chris Chan now says that he is Jesus. Now this makes no fucking sense. For the past few years, Chris Chan has been saying that God and Jesus are separate people and that he talks to both of them. So if God and Jesus are separate people and he talks to both of them, how can he be Jesus? He at first starts saying he has similar parallels to Jesus, then he directly claims to be a reincarnation of Jesus. And that's not how any of this works. You could say that he sees reincarnations like he does with the Cherokean leader. The Cherokean leader still exists as a ghost, despite Chris Chan being a reincarnation of him. But then Chris Chan says that he's a reincarnation of a hippie from the 1970s, and he's never portrayed her existing in a ghost form. So, Chris Chan doesn't understand how religion works, Chris Chan doesn't understand how reincarnation works, and Chris Chan now thinks that he is Jesus, despite the fact that he's supposed to be friends with Jesus, and Jesus is supposed to be like a tier of God alongside him. And so Chris Chan's religion makes absolutely no sense. It's just whatever he reads that day. He read Yu-Gi-Oh shit, so he made it Yu-Gi-Oh. He read fucking Neptunia shit, or played Neptunia shit, or was told about Neptunia shit, so he made it Neptunia. He's now reading the Bible, which is a terrible idea. The prison shouldn't have gave him that, or the jail shouldn't have gave him that. I use those interchangeably, but some people get mad that I do. But now he's trying to work Christianity more into his fucking bullshit. And it just keeps getting more convoluted. It just keeps getting more stupid. And Chris Chan's fucking world makes no sense. His world building makes no fucking sense. His lore makes no fucking sense. And I didn't even bring up the Rick and Morty shit and the Marvel shit and how that plays into his world building. Maybe later I'll do a whole video just about Chris Chan's world building and how that makes no fucking sense. But hopefully you guys learned something today about Chris Chan's religion and about how it makes no fucking sense. Hello, Captain's Log, October 10th, 2021. I told you guys I wasn't going to be doing anything on my birthday, and I didn't do anything on my birthday. It was really fun. I got a lot of stuff for myself. I had a cake, everything you expect for your birthday. And yes, I am feeling that other year older, like everyone was asking. I'm definitely feeling old. Let's get back into Chris Chan, though. Today's Chris Chan topic is something people have recommended for a long time. And it's another what if. So for those of you guys who didn't like the what ifs, just click off this video. I know that it's silly, but some people want to hear this shit, and I'm going to give them the answer that they asked for. So if you don't like what ifs, just click off. Today's what if is going to revolve around what if Chris Chan didn't have autism. And I really hate to tell you guys this. I really hate to burst your bubble. I don't like disappointing you, but I think some of the people who have been asking this just don't understand how autism works. Like, autism is not the crutch holding Chris Chan back. Chris Chan's life isn't miserable because he has autism. Autism can hinder some people, yeah, but there's plenty of people who've moved on from having autism. Hell, all autism really does is give you social issues and makes you hyperfixate on something. There are plenty of people who have used the hyperfixation to become like one of the leads in their field and become millionaires overnight. Like, to assume that autism made Chris Chan who he is stupid. The only thing that autism really did was give him a shield to hide behind, and made him think that people needed to pity him and feel bad for him because he had autism. But for the most part, a lot of the issues Chris Chan has isn't really because of autism, and I've seen these issues in people who aren't on the spectrum. I have seen these issues from many people who are just poorly socialized. And I think that's the main problem with Chris Chan, is that he's poorly socialized. So even if he didn't have autism, even if Chris Chan didn't, like, have the issues, like, academically that he did because of autism, it doesn't mean Chris Chan would be any better. Like, there might have not been that moment in his life where he was completely silent for a while as a kid, but doesn't mean that he wouldn't be a brat as a kid. He could still be a brat as a kid. He wouldn't have got taken out of school and tried to be forced into a mental school. He wouldn't have been forced to ride the short bus. And he wouldn't have had his classic go-to argument that he has autism to hide behind. I don't know if Bionic would be made, because I know Bionic was all about autism, but there's still a good chance that Sonichu would be made. There's still a good chance a lot of the things that happened with Chris Chan would still happen. The love quest is not because of autism. Chris Chan still could have been poorly socialized and not be able to talk to women, and still would have tried the love quest even without autism. Incels exist, and incels are not the result of autism. There are plenty of incels who are not on the spectrum. So to assume that because he cannot get a woman, that's the blame on his autism is silly. And I think that's the main problem with people who keep suggesting, what if Chris Chan wasn't autistic? Is that people think that Chris Chan's life is just going to be 1,000 times better if he didn't have autism? Which, no. Almost everything Chris Chan has done, he still could have done without autism. And I know that this is kind of breaking the immersion, this isn't really a hypothetical, but that's because I don't even want to humor this hypothetical. Autism has little to nothing to do with how Chris Chan turned out. Chris Chan's main problem is the way people treated him. The way his parents raised him, the way that he interacted with people, the way that he saw the world. I'm gonna give you guys what you wanted though. Here's the worst case scenario if Chris Chan didn't have autism. That being, Chris Chan wasn't a threat to women because he had autism. The autism made him childish, it made him silly, it made him basically a non-threat. If Chris Chan didn't have autism and still held the same views on women, he probably would have been more pushy, and he probably would have been more able to overpower a woman. So, Chris Chan without autism might have been a sexual predator, even more so than the Chris Chan we have now. So, basically, Chris Chan without autism is a more dangerous Chris Chan, because chances are he would still be an incel. He still would have been a virgin with rage. He still would have had all the same issues. It's just now he has the ability to corner people and overpower them. So I hate to tell you that, and I hate to be this guy, because a lot of people out there want to believe that Chris Chan is a good person. I used to want to believe Chris Chan is a good person, but Chris Chan raped his mother. So I am not willing to give Chris Chan the benefit of doubt anymore. I refuse. I think an able-bodied Chris Chan is a more dangerous Chris Chan. And yes, I do believe that Chris Chan is a danger. If he can get the rationale in his head that having sex with his mother is okay, there's no saying where the limit would be drawn. I don't think Chris Chan would have a 9-to-5 job. There's plenty of homeless people, there's plenty of fucking unemployed people who are not on the spectrum. I think none of Chris Chan's problems really have anything to do with autism. Autism just made it worse. So, I think an able-bodied Chris Chan is a dangerous Chris Chan. And the only reason why no one was hurt before now is because his autism made him so shy that he couldn't interact with people. If Chris Chan had the ability to interact with people and the ability to manipulate people, he would have been a bigger threat. So yes, I think it would have just created an even darker timeline if Chris Chan didn't have autism. And we're probably better off that he did have autism. But that's just my thought. If you want to believe that Chris Chan would have been perfect and he would have turned into Chad Chan, you can go ahead and think that. But I know that people are what they are raised to be. And if you are in an environment that constantly belittles you, and constantly babies you, and constantly, shelters you, you're not going to turn out to be a competent person. It takes a lot of willpower to come from that type of environment and better yourself. And I don't think Chris Chan has the willpower to better himself. So, sorry for this very bleak what if. I don't really like doing the what ifs too much, but if I keep getting asked about them, I'll give you an answer. Hello, Captain's Log, October 22nd, 2021. Now, if I sound a bit stuffed up right now, it's because I'm sick. I've been sick for a couple days now, I'm trying to get better. I'm drinking a lot. I'm eating a lot. I'm fine. I'll be fine. It's just I'm going to sound weird for today's video. But today I wanted to have a conversation that I kind of had in one of my previous videos, but didn't really elaborate on it. Today we're going to be talking about why you shouldn't be trolling Chris Chan anymore. Now, I know I'm going to sound like the fun police, and I know that people will go and fuck with Chris Chan regardless if I say it or not. I just also know that a lot of the people who would be potential Chris Chan trolls watch my content. The people who did the last Chris Chan trolling op watch my content. They always reach out to me, they always tell me. It's been a thing for the last 2 or 3 trolls. So, I know you guys watch my content, so hopefully you'll listen to what I have to say. When the trolling of Chris Chan first started, Chris Chan was a womanizer. He would harass local women trying to date them. He would be a creep to women in public. He was homophobic. He was racist. He was a lot of things. He was prideful. He was egotistic. He was proud of his welfare. He had so much going for him that it made him an open target to fuck with. And he was delusional, but he wasn't delusional to the point where you worry about them. He was delusional in the funny way. So, I get why people fucked with Chris. I get why people wanted to fuck with Chris. But that's over 10 years ago. Chris Chan now has nothing left to take. They've already broken the medallion. They've broken the medallion and got him to shove it up his ass. He fucked his PlayStation 3. He's drove to many places in the pursuit of China to never get it. He has harmed himself. He's done so much for the trolls. Every way that you could fuck with someone, they've done it to Chris. There's nothing new you can do. There's nothing funny that you can do. The only thing you can do at this point is hurt Chris. And hurting Chris is also pointless. Chris Chan is going to lose his house. Chris Chan is going to be locked up, and Barb could die while he's locked up. But even if he gets out, when he gets out, chances are Barbara will either be dead or he won't be allowed to live with Barbara anymore. So he doesn't have a house. He's going to be locked up for so long that he is going to have to reapply for welfare. So until he reapplies and goes through the processing of it, he isn't going to have his tugboat. He's not going to have his mom because he isn't allowed to see her anymore because of what he did to her. He doesn't have his dad. His dad's dead. He doesn't have most of the pets that he had. They're also dead. Chris Chan has lost everything that you could lose. And he didn't even have much in life. He suffered through the house fire. He suffered through God knows how many arrests. And at this point, I'm not saying feel bad for him. He had sex with his mom. You can't feel bad for him anymore. But what I'm saying is that he needs to just be left alone at this point. Trolling Chris Chan is pointless because you can't do anything new or original with trolling Chris Chan. Everything that you could think of doing, someone else has already done. You can't one-up the last person because the last person got Chris Chan to fuck his mom. There's nothing else you can do. Chris Chan is broken beyond repair. He has nothing left to offer. There are no more lulls to milk. It's over. It's done. I'm just waiting till Chris Chan gets sentenced and gets put in wherever he's going to go. And then, to be honest, I think I'm done with Chris Chan. I'm going to talk about the last subjects that I want to talk about. There are still trolls I want to talk about, and other people in Chris Chan's life that I want to talk about. But, to be honest, I really feel like it's over. I really feel like there's nothing left you can do to Chris Chan. He fucked his mom. And I think that the people who are still trying to get something out of Chris Chan, they're just as pathetic as Chris. I say just leave him alone. He'll ruin his own life. He's already ruined it as much as one could imagine you could. There's nothing left that you can do to him. Leave the demon to his demons and rest your soul. That's what I've got to say. And yes, I know that's a fucking FNAF quote. It's a fitting quote. Chris Chan is in a prison of his own making, literally, and, like, metaphorically. You just need to stop. There's nothing you can do. Writing him try-hard notes in prison isn't funny. The notes that Christian has been sending is already getting boring. They repeat each other. He isn't saying anything really new or interesting and is just as boring as Christian's tweets. If you keep sending him prison letters, the only thing you're going to do is give people like Gibby more content. Once Christian's locked up behind bars, like permanently, I don't think I'm going to care about him. Because I'm honestly losing interest in Chris. Because it's hard to be interested in a man that fucked his own mom. Hello, Captain's Log. January 9th, 2022. Now, I'm sure you guys have been wondering where the Captain's Log videos have been properly. I did a couple live-action Captain's Log videos, but I really did those because I lost my VTuber. I had to factory reset my computer a couple times over because of some bullshit, and my VTuber ended up getting misplaced because of that. I recently got him back because my ex Taylor was willing to dig through her trash and get him, and I've been wanting to do more of these videos. But the reason why I haven't been doing them, if you can't tell right now, I sound more nasally than usual, it's because I've gotten sick with the flu. Yes, the first time in a while I've gotten really sick with the flu. But I decided you guys need a video. I'm going to try to upload daily or at least once every other day. So, flu or not, I am here and I am going to talk about something Christian related. Today we're going to be talking about why the Christian prison calls were a giant missed opportunity. Now, when I heard that people were calling Christian in prison, I thought it was going to be like the Bob calls, where people just call in and prank him. I guess some people have a little bit more respect for law enforcement than I expected from them, because as far as I know, we haven't gotten any calls like that yet. But we have gotten a couple calls from prison. It's just sadly there isn't anything too interesting in them. If you guys didn't watch the videos where I bitched about Christian's prison letters, I might do another one soon. The biggest problem with talking to Christian in prison is that there's nothing going on in his life. Christian's not going to tell you if he spent a night with Bubba. Christian's not going to tell you anything terrible that happened. The only thing Christian's going to tell you is that he's a god, and that he's focusing his energy to smite the blasphemous when he finally gets released from his tomb. You'll never get an interesting story from Christian again. He's not in prison working on Sonichu comics. He's not in prison focusing on himself. He's instead just going further into his own delusions. He got a Bible in prison and decided to read that, and when he read it, he said, okay, I'm the main character from this too. So now Christian thinks he's Jesus. And he thinks that Barb is God. Do I really think that he thinks this? No. Christian is a sad, delusional individual. He is playing pretend to try to escape from the misery that is his life. If he can even barely trick himself into thinking he's Jesus, then he thinks that there's a chance of salvation. There's a chance that things won't be bad later on. Christian is playing pretend, and he doesn't actually believe that he's God or Jesus. It's weird that every time Christian goes to a psychiatric evaluation, he passes. He's never found as mentally ill. He's just autistic. If Christian was actually deranged or Christian was actually unstable, we would already know. But back to the topic at hand, that being the prison phone calls. A couple prison phone calls ended up happening, and shock of all shocks, they were utter shit. My big complaint right away is that they're edited. The guy who was recording it decided to cut out his responses, like his questions to Chris. He only left in the parts where Chris answered him. So we don't know the context of what Christian's talking about, and we don't really know what's going on. Problem number 2 is that these phone calls are a lot longer than even that. He has edited down the phone calls to even smaller snippets and was releasing the snippets to tease people. So we're being deprived of content and we're being deprived of context. These are already 2 major red flags. Another problem is just what he's using to record. instead of being a sensible person, he has decided to hold his phone up to a microphone and record the call that way, guerrilla style. This is a terrible idea because we can hear the other cars driving by near his car or near wherever the hell he's at when he's recording these, and all of that noise fucking muddles out Chris Chan. So for barely being able to hear Chris Chan, now we can't hear Chris Chan hardly at all. Here's some advice I'm going to give this guy. Number 1, if you don't want your voice in, you can always edit it. There are apps on devices that let you mask your voice in real time. One of the major ones I would recommend if you're on a computer is Screaming Bee. Now, I don't know how this is going to go over well with the police, but don't question it. There's also free apps that you can use. I think Screaming Bee has a free version and a premium version, but there are apps that you can use. And the reason why I bring up PCs is because I recommend you to use a PC calling app. You don't have to call from your phone anymore. You can call from a computer. There is a service called Text Now or Text Me that lets you call from your computer. You can make your own area code, you can make your own phone number. But if you think that's too sketchy, there's also Google Voice. Google Voice is a legitimate program run by Google that lets you do the exact same thing. And if you mix a voice-changing software with that, no one will know who you are. You get to keep your anonymous status, and we'll actually get to hear the fucking questions that you're asking Chris Chan. And if you want to record that way, I recommend you getting OBS. I record my videos in OBS, so you can tell that it's a decent quality. So mix Screaming Bee or any other voice changer with a good phone service from your computer like Google Voice and OBS, and then boom, you've got a crystal clear Chris Chan prison call that you can release. Now, will I think that he'll take this advice? No, he's not going to take this advice. The last I heard of the guy, he was crying and bitching on Kiwi Farms because people were upset with him and people were leaking his full audio. So I don't think that he's going to be doing any of this shit. I don't think the caller is going to improve. I don't think that the fucking calls are going to improve. I don't even know if we're going to have any more calls because of this person. This guy had a golden opportunity to ask Chris Chan literally anything and have the full attention of the internet on his side, and he decided to blow it. He decided to blow it by being an egotistical, pompous, arrogant dick. So I'm not even shocked. Over and over and over again, the fucking Chris community has proven to be a giant fucking disappointment. You have one basic thing that you can do, and you fuck it up. You get a chance to actually get an interview with Chris at one of the most important times in his life, and you fuck it up. But I can't even be shocked anymore because these people have proven to be disappointments over and over again. You have people who have the opportunity to write to Chris Chan, and instead of asking Chris Chan important information, they decide to try to get him to switch over to Islam. You get people who can call Chris Chan and get full-on fucking vocal interviews with him, and they decide to waste their time and fucking blackmail the community into worshiping them in order to get a few minutes of shitty audio. I think overall, the only thing that the prison phone calls have proven to me is that people suck. People suck, and they're going to continue to be massive disappointments. So my thing for the future would be, if literally anybody else can get a hold of Chris Chan, take the advice from this video and apply it, and get a proper interview from Chris Chan. Either that, or we're just going to have to wait till he's out of jail to ask him these questions, and by then he'll probably already have a retcon telling of what happened in prison. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed your new year. I hope you're ready for more videos like this. If you guys liked this video, hit the like button. If you really like it, then share it. And if you want to see more, then subscribe. Thank you guys for watching, and bye.